What's all happening? Welcome to the stage, Mickey Magic! Hey everyone, welcome to That Pedal Show. Viewers, comments and questions. Dan here.
Mick here. Guten Abend.
Oh, guten Abend. I
Fräulein.
only know Fräulein. That's all I know.
Yeah, I think that would work.
Okay. Excellent. Hope you are all fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. Sorry we're a bit late. We've been filming and ran over.
Well,
sorry, I ran over.
Either ran over or yeah. Anyway, good. Thank you for being here, everyone. Thank you to BV Ninja for moderating.
Indeed.
We are eternally grateful, BV. Thank you. And thanks to everyone who's joining us across the globe, because it tends to be fairly widespread.
Indeed.
All the way from Bristol to Manchester and beyond. Didn't say which Bristol.
Is there a Bristol in America?
Yeah.
Hundreds of them.
If I ever go back to Bristol, I'm better off sleeping in the county jail. I don't want to die in a Super 8 motel.
That's not the lyric.
Yeah, I think it is, isn't it?
Is it?
I think it's Bristol.
Wow. Okay.
Fight me. That's what they say, isn't it? That's what the kids say.
Right. Touch hands and roll. Awesome. Okay,
Could be Frisco. We're going to get back to Frisco. I think it's Bristol. Let us know. Jason Isbell, Super 8. Awesome song. Rip-roaring account of a fight following a gig. Waking up in a hotel half dead.
Mike says Bristol, Connecticut.
Yeah, there we are.
Very good.
Connecticut.
Easy.
What? That's what it says?
It does.
Yeah. It's just the same as the Americans having trouble with Loughborough and Edinburgh.
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 Leicestershire.
Ah, Leicestershire.
Rob Garlicky says Bristol, not Bristol.
Ah, Bristol. Side eye up, landlord.
I must say, and I don't like to keep bringing this up because Mick was unable to make it, but oh my word, the Jason Isbell gig was flipping extraordinary.
Next time. I know, I missed flipping Madison Cunningham this week as well, which I'm really annoyed about.
She was here.
Yeah. That was particularly annoying, but just
where was she?
Couldn't make it work. A few venues across the UK. Here's that pedal dog.
Hello, darling.
Rosie.
Are you live streaming?
We are.
I have a little bit of housekeeping.
Come on, darling, quick.
Rosie has been groomed today, haven't you, Rosie?
Aha!
Has had a lovely groom, and she looks so splendidly lovely. You look like a very, and you smell nice too. She used that lavender oil stuff.
She gave her a little squirty squirt.
Yeah, Rosie, what a smart spaniel you are.
Daniel?
What a smart spaniel.
Girl.
Okay,
we
don't want you jumping up and down too much because you hurt the old legs, or indeed the young legs. Rosie, hey, right, we're going down then. Go on then.
I'll swap you.
Thank you. Okay, so before we get into this week's questions, actually, I'll tell you what, I am just going to turn Super Chat off because we've got loads.
There's a good girl. There's a good girl. Yeah.
So,
It's okay.
You wouldn't do some drinks, would you, Bebbers?
Yes, what would you like, sir?
Some tea, please.
Just a glass of water.
Glass of water?
I just have a salad.
Okay.
I just have a glass of water.
A small salad?
Small salad.
Yeah. Oh, Rosie, you do look so smart after your groom today, baby dog. Yeah. Yes. All right. Okay, BV. I am trying to get there. I'm trying to log in. Right. Super Chat is now off. So if you've super chatted to this point, we shall answer you.
Swiftly.
Yes, swiftly, because we are way behind today. So apologies to everyone for that. Yeah. Housekeeping. Sorry, there are Royal Mail strikes this week. So helpfully just before Christmas, it has disrupted the post a bit. So apologies for that. we've temporarily set up Every and DPD as courier shipping options for all UK customers. So if you want to avoid the Royal Mail, choose Every or DPD. Actually, the Every rates look really good. Every used to be the worst courier company in the world, Hermes. They were just dreadful.
They
were dreadful here.
I'm not aware that they changed.
They've rebranded to Every, and I've had 2 or 3 things delivered via Every just recently, and it's been...
Oh, okay. That's encouraging.
Really, really sorted themselves out.
Right.
So anyway, there you go. Not only is it good because it's good, your packages are now much more trackable than they are with Royal Mail standard delivery. And for all international orders outside of the UK, we strongly recommend using FedEx or UPS if parcels are needed before Christmas. Just select your preferred courier at checkout. Yeah, it can be a little bit more expensive, but it's so much better, so much quicker, and so much more trackable.
Lovely.
So thank you to everyone who's bought something from that Pembrokeshire store.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, are you getting ready for Christmas?
No. As Dan and I had a chat earlier, there's a few things that I need to do. Forget Christmas, just in general in my life, and those things didn't happen this weekend. So,
okay,
Christmas is definitely going to the back of the queue at the moment.
Right. Okay.
But that's good because it's not a stressful time in our house. We have Catherine's mother coming, and therefore no stress required.
Okay.
So
it's only Catherine's mother coming. There's not going to be a house full.
Yeah.
Of...
I don't have to buy presents for anyone or anything like that.
Okay.
I don't have to do any of that stuff.
Right.
So it's easy.
Brilliant.
All I have to do is do the cooking, which I enjoy.
Lovely.
So,
Lovely. I'm cooking this year as well.
Yeah. It's probably more stressful for you because you have children and family and all of that.
I think it's only Teen's mum that's coming.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Where are the kids going then?
Oh, they'll be there, but
I see.
They'll get what they're given.
Yeah. Well, damn tune. It shouldn't be stressful though, should it? If it's stressful, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. You're doing it sober.
Well,
which is,
yeah, I'm a big believer in that. Anyway, we missed a super chat from ages ago. From Monnov21. Mike Hewitt. Oh, Monnov21 is Monday, November the 21st. So it's remained... You never know with names these days.
No, you don't.
Yeah. This guy's called Fry 5 Deck. What the hell? Mun 5 Deck. Anyway, Mike Hewitt. Sorry we missed you, Mike. Let's finally get it. He says, greetings from Leighton Buzzard.
Oh, lovely.
Fascinating show on Friday, talking about the Marshall show.
Oh, yeah.
That we did 2 or 3 weeks ago. He said, I bought a second-hand Marshall Vintage Modern 2266C.
Great amp.
After auditioning it against the Fender Twin. Mm-hmm. It's been a great amp, even if I use my pedal board mounted Quilter more these days. I don't understand that, but anyway.
The Quilter pedal board amp.
Yeah, I know, but if you've got a vintage mod and all that.
I know.
Anyway, fair enough, Mike. Whatever works for you. However, I've only just realised what Marshall were trying to do. It has internally jumpered inputs via the high and low gain controls and different gain structure via the high and low dynamic range switch. I'm guessing they were trying to give you something like the setup you had last Friday in all-in-one box, i.e. the 4-input.
Yes,
Marshall.
exactly that.
I still love the way it sounds. Do you have any thoughts or comments? Because you don't see many vintage modern amps around these days.
I have one comment. So, when I was playing at the Redback in Acton years ago, and I had my 2-Rock Jet, and first set in, end of the first set, I was like, this amp is sounding incredible. Oh dear. Done.
Dead.
So I finished that, and it was just at the end of the first set. So I finished it, and because I had some issues with the old with the transformer in that 2-Rock. It's a very different business now. But anyway, there's a young lad there from a band. He says, I've got an amp in my van if you want to borrow that for the rest of the gig. And it was a vintage modern, and it was sensational.
Yeah, I like them. I remember when they came out. I went to the launch, I think. Paul Gilbert played him for a while. Thank you. Paul Gilbert played him for a while.
Oh, thanks, Catherine.
I
didn't even notice that. arrived there? How'd you do that? It's magic.
I thought they had maybe KT66s or something, if I'm remembering correctly.
Okay.
And the first ones had purple vinyl as well,
Oh, nice.
if I remember correctly. Yeah, I remember liking
vinyl.
them very much.
Purple vinyl. Well, it doesn't quite work. Yeah, very good.
It's quite interesting though with Marshall's sort of more modern amps, as it were, because by that time we're deep into DSL territory, I think. If you think it goes, roughly plexis, roughly master volume JMPs, roughly JCM 800, roughly JTM 900, and then into the DSL and TSL era. Sorry if I've missed anything out there, but essentially, evolutions of that original design. And for me, Marshall is the amp brand that always has the familial
Sound.
sounds.
Yeah.
Now, take out stuff like Mode 4 and, even valve state to effect. But if you're talking about the tube amps, the 50 and 100 watt leads and super leads through the years, and it felt to me like Vintage Modern was just, as the name implies, a step back to what was really cool about some of the previous amps. But that said, driven right, the DSLs are fantastic amps too.
Right.
I don't know what they're on now. I don't know what the modern version is, but my friend Denny Eilert, who is a great musician, composer, and other things, he always used to play one. And when we did the Hendrix tribute gigs, he had his custom shop big headstock Strat and a Vintage Modern, just dialed the Jimmy way, and it's just that sound.
Yeah, magic.
So yeah, nice one.
Very good.
Nice
Well
one,
done,
Mike. Glad you like it. Ranzer,
Ranzer.
we may pick up a pace today.
Yes.
He says, Shalom from Israel.
Shalom, my mate.
4 out of 5 of my top 22 Spotify artists are discovered through TPS.
No way.
That's pretty cool.
That's great.
You can't claim Radiohead.
No.
That was a pre-existing addiction. So in addition to tone, thanks for the wonderful music.
Oh, mate, you're so welcome.
Thank you, Ran.
That's what it's all about at the end of the day, right?
It ought to be, didn't it?
Yeah.
It ought to be.
Trying.
Matt McGrath. Hello, Matt.
Hey, Matt.
He says, leg ends. No question today. Just saying thanks for all the work you do. Much appreciated. Also, if you ever get a chance to try out the electronic audio experiments, please do. They're amazing pedals.
Okay.
Electronic audio experiments. Okay, we shall look out for those. We are back to doing regular new pedal days with new pedals that get sent to us. So we're cracking through them. Did some cool stuff today, actually.
Did some so cool.
Including the new Origin MEQ, which we like a lot.
Yes. And also the Otto Machines BAM delay. Was it BAM or BAM I had today?
Don't know. I had to rush down through it because we were late for doing this, so bonkers.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt. Rodrigo Gaspari. Hello, Rodrigo. He says, leg ends. I just received word that my 3 TPS Ts arrived in my wife's friend's house in London. She will bring them to me in Brazil in March. Can't wait. Love you.
Oh, fantastic.
Rodrigo, I'm sorry we don't ship to Brazil. We've had a nightmare shipping stuff to Brazil. We've probably done, 10 or 15 things over the years, and 9 or 14 of them have gone missing. So there's something not happening at the Brazilian end of the postal system there. So with apologies, thank you for going the extra mile and finding some other way to get them.
Yes, cheers, buddy.
Means a lot. Bell Tunnel. Hello, Bell. He says, Kenny Leggins.
That's very good.
That's
very good. Oh, that's winning.
He says, I saw the Julian Lage trio last night in Connecticut.
No.
Wow. For anyone who thinks they dislike typical jazz guitar tone, please check out Julian Lage. If jazz can blues and rock, this is it.
Right.
Yeah, man,
He is something else. He's an absolute force.
yeah,
Such an original voice.
unique,
So beautiful. Yeah.
wonderfully unique and amazing artist.
Yep.
James Blessed. Hey, James. James came to one of our experience days. Nice to hear from you. James says, Sir Michael of Shangri-La. I like that. Do you think your years spent in guitar journalism has affected your playing in any way? Thanks, guys. Yes, it has.
Great question.
Yeah, it has, probably in a similar way that Dan, hanging around all the artists that he works with, has, in that your everyday game is at quite an intimidating level, because one day you might be with Paul Gilbert, the next day you might be with whoever. You know, you're dealing with the world's best guitar players all the time, and on the one hand that can be very scary, so you don't want to play because obviously it's quite a lot of work. But on the other hand, it's ultimately inspiring, and there's, by osmosis, being around those people, I'm not saying in terms of ability it sinks in, but the inspiration sinks in, and the willingness to sound good sinks in. So it definitely made a difference. I don't regret anything. It's not really part of my brain to regret stuff. I would be a more accomplished guitar player had I paid more attention to the techniques section. I used to hate the technique section and resent doing it.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah. It is my least favourite part of the mag, and I tried to get it banned many times. And,
Really?
Yeah. Because we had Total Guitar and Guitar Techniques for that. I thought,
Yeah,
guitarists,
so that's interesting.
it's just not about that.
Yeah.
Get out of town.
Yeah.
That said, many readers, of course, found it immensely useful, as should I have done had I been a little more mature in my thinking. So, again, I'm not really about shoulda, woulda, coulda. Too late for that now. But I think it would have been even better if I'd paid attention to those thousands of techniques columns I edited.
Okay.
The best thing I could do was count the staves.
Just make sure they're all there.
So I would assume
You got
that,
7.
well, the tutor would send in the tab, all the dots. It would then get set by a music setter, and then it would get sent back to the contributor to check. So I'm going to assume that part of it's right. So the only thing I could really do was make sure all the bars were there, all the staves were there. So you'd count the bar numbers.
Right.
And yeah, that was about as much of that went in. So you'd have loved it.
I would have loved it.
You'd have loved it. It's like some of the world's best guitar lessons every 28 days and loads of them. I didn't have I still don't have the motivation to engage with it. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. Now, so shoulda, woulda, coulda. Let's say I wasn't in guitar journalism and I was out playing in a band, writing and recording music. I would probably be a significantly better guitar player now.
Yeah, but you say that, right? But I think so.
Not that there's any better word, different. I am getting out of the comparison thing because it's not useful to anyone.
Sure. You picked up. We're filming today, and you picked up the guitar and went, "Oh man, I haven't played guitar since we recorded last time," and just proceeded to go "Wah," and just turn it on. And all those years that you did playing 5 nights a week has given you that button that you can just go bang and turn it on.
Maybe.
So,
Also, keeping a very narrow sphere of chops does help with that a bit. I'm just going to turn the dB meter off.
Okay.
Anyway, thanks for the question, James. That's an interesting question.
Very good one. Very good one.
Has hanging around with top musicians affected your guitar playing, Dan?
Yeah, I try not to play around them.
Jamal Hill Richardson Albini. Hello to you, Jamal. He says, "Morning, Shanks.
Okay.
If I decided to mix my 64 AC50, I'm just going to say that again, 64 AC50.
Is it a grey panel or is it a red panel?
With a new Victory V4 wet dry, do you think phase and latency would be an issue? I love the TS1 last week. Will we get a deep dive on it and how Mick uses it?"
No. If you're talking about using the called the AC4.
The Victory V4 preamp pedal thing.
Oh, okay.
And they also do one that's got a solid state Class D power amp in it as well.
It's still analog. There's still no latency there, even if it's transistor.
It's analog right up until you get to the 2 notes out, and then it's not. analog anymore.
But if you're using the speaker out,
Yeah.
it's still analog.
So if you were to send a direct out of the two notes and then mic your Vox, then yeah, that's going to be a problem because you will get the phase problem. That's the problem we had with Joey Landreth's rig when he was using the two notes Captor X to send the signal out to his wet cabs, and we had to get rid of the Captor X because the latency didn't work, so we did it a different way. So that's that. If you're just using the speaker out and you're micing them, no phase, no latency, all
Happy
good.
days. Yep.
Yeah.
Paul Norman says, I honestly struggled to see how Mick could improve his playing. His playing is amazing. And I agree.
That's very kind of you to say. And for what it's worth, I am past the comparison thing. I used to feel really bad about my playing and very down, but what I've learned about that is it's still your ego. It's your ego being out of control by making the focus you the whole time.
Sure.
So I've tried to put that down and go, it is what it is. We all play as we play. And as long as you do it from a place of integrity and a place of meaning, and you genuinely want to say something with your playing, it's all good after that. It doesn't matter how good, bad, or otherwise you think you are. If you do it from your heart, that's all that matters. And I've embraced that a great deal.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Very lovely.
But I think that's what all the best artists do.
Right.
And all that soul searching about you're not good enough is just a waste of time.
Yeah, indeed.
It's literally a waste
Indeed.
of life.
Indeed.
So that's very kind of you to say. All of us, whether we are starting in our first day of guitar playing or whether we are Paul Gilbert, there's always the rest of the universe to go.
So true.
It never ends.
So true.
It never ends.
So true.
If you see it like that, because actually the only thing that matters is the next step. Actually, the only thing that matters is this step. The step you're taking at this point. That's all that matters. And if you make your focus that, you'll enjoy your playing.
Yeah,
I think.
I agree.
Do you think so?
I agree.
Sorry for being such a hippie about it. I've had a bit of a spiritual awakening in the last few weeks. Whit Anderson.
Woo.
The TS1 you said, will we get a deep dive? I think so.
Have to. It's so good. I think you need to put the TS1 and the
CRS.
and put them together and go, okay, you know what? We should do that tomorrow.
We can. I've got another idea actually that may encompass some of that. They're very, very different things, and
I think that's what we need to do is explain the differences.
yeah.
So there's a lot of people, I reckon, hearing that going, it's just flipping incredible, and then hearing the scene and going, so they, what do you do? So
a part of it has got to be 10 minutes of saying this is what you think a Dumble sounds like,
right,
and this is what a Dumble actually sounds like,
Right, okay.
and they are two vastly different things, and that in itself is quite controversial. So I'm trying to figure out a positive way of doing that.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Without being too rude about all the pedals that say
Got it.
they sound like
Yeah.
Dumbles and really don't.
Got it.
But anyway, Whit Anderson.
Woo.
He says Friday's boosting show was thought-provoking. It resulted in a mess of cables and hours of fun. I ended up with my original board, then split to two identical Marshall heads. 2x12 is normal and the 1x10 is more. So good.
Yes.
Much love.
Yes.
So Dan, who can we think of in history who had very famously a very famous 2x12 amp and used a much smaller amp for his solo boost?
That would be Brian of May.
Yeah, Sir Brian of Mayshire. So when you hear that real super mid-focus sound, that's a little amp that called the Deaky. Maybe because John Deacon built it,
He did.
Yeah.
It's a little solid state amplifier.
which gets.
All that,
Yeah, yeah.
and the edge on it. Yeah, it's amazing.
Have I taken drugs today?
Why?
I feel like I've taken drugs.
Well, I put something in your tea, but that was only to...
I haven't taken drugs, by the way.
I haven't put anything in his tea. Disclaimer.
Naganud. Hello, Naganud. He says, I noticed there was a Bloomfield Drive at an experience day recently, and I was wondering what you thought of it and where it sits in the Fendery Dumble 2 Rocky Pantheon. Thanks, guys. So interesting. I've played a few Bloomfield Drives down the years. I hadn't yet played a 100-watt one, which is what this was.
Oh.
Yeah. Belonged to Dan, who also has lent us a 53 Fender Pro. It had, so compared to my TS1, it had a more extended bottom end. Now, whether that's because it's big bottle 6L6s and into a 212 cab and the 100-watt power section, so it definitely had more extended bottom end. It had the wonderful reverb. 2-rock reverb is just...
It's all the warm, squidgy stuff.
I just love it. The TS1 by comparison, a bit more visceral.
No reverb.
No reverb, bit more of that. I'd keep, that D thing.
Well, it's a lot more of that thing, isn't it?
And the Bloomfield does it really well.
Oh, okay.
Really, really well. Much better than the CRS. It's
really?
It's in that world.
Okay.
It's in that world in a big way. I would say the Bloomfield is more capable of the sort of Fendery end of things than the TS1 is.
Interesting.
The TS1 is very D-style all the way.
Yeah.
So I liked it a lot, actually, the Bloomfield Drive.
Right.
And I liked the 100-watt one in a big way.
Oh.
Joey had a 2040, which was flipping great, but I blimmin' liked the 100-watt one. So, yeah. Yeah, it was cool. Sounded great.
Chris Turner said, I just started singing Big Bottom as soon as Mick said more bottom end. I do it every time.
Talk about mud flaps, my girl's gone.
I started watching Better Call Saul, and there's our mate on it. And I've always known he's a great actor, but far out. His performance in that show is incredible. He's a really, really serious actor. Yeah. Our mate Michael McKean.
Yeah, our best friend, Michael McKean.
Yep. Who keeps calling.
Yeah. Sorry, I am just going to open up another window here. Someone's showing you on Musician how to play Enter Sandman. Say your prayers. Second note says, how have you been liking the PRS 20-watt Hendrix thing? We like it a lot.
Yeah.
We've been using it in videos. It sits in a very nice place of volume and drive and chewy and nice.
It's really great. I really like it.
Yeah, really like it. These they pair very nicely because the Tone King is 20 watt as well, so you can get it nice and loud, but it doesn't hurt.
Sure.
In the way that the Matchless and the 2-Rock hurt.
Yeah.
Or can hurt. Mike 2203. We have a question on guitar value. He says, your video visiting ATB guitars. Hello, Mike. Mike also came to one of our experience days. He says, your video visiting ATB guitars a while ago was fascinating and their guitars are clearly beautiful. But can a Gibson Les Paul really be worth £299,000? I'll say first off, Mike, that they sold for a lot more than that. 299 is relatively reasonable for a burst, we think.
I remember I was 19 years old going past Jackson's Rare Guitars in Sydney, and there was a sign on the wall that said opportunity to buy a burst for 80,000 Australian dollars. If you want to go 50-50, then we can buy this burst. And I went, you must be drunk. No guitar in the world is worth 80,000. And that was Australian pesos at the time. At the time it was $3 to the pound.
Yeah, I remember that.
So that would have been what, £27,000.
Yeah.
No, the early 90s.
Oh, okay.
Early 90s, 92, I'd say.
Yeah.
I was like, no, there's just no way. and then it's like house prices.
Look at it now.
It's like supply and demand, all that stuff.
Caveat on, I think what things get advertised for on the open market, and
And what they actually sell
and
for.
what they actually sell for might be two different things, especially in private trades where guitar dealers aren't involved. So just that caveat. But well, there's two things, isn't there? Is it worth it as an investment? Probably. They only made a handful of them. They're always going to be collectible to people who want to buy them. So as a straight investment, you could argue that given that if you've got any money, banks aren't paying any interest. So you have to find other things to do with it. Can you imagine that?
No, it makes total sense to me.
No, I mean, can you imagine having money to invest?
Oh. Of course not.
I got a few friends that are, moaning about their giant amounts of cash they've got that aren't earning them any money. And I've got other friends who are really savvy, who've got small amounts of money, who do stuff with it like short-term lending and things like that, whether you get into the morals of that or not, whatever. So the point is, if you've got some cash sat there...
You got loan sharks who are friends?
Funding circle and things like that.
Okay.
What do you do? Put it into property, maybe?
Oh, well, not now.
And then you get the capital gains problem.
Yeah.
So if there was a hedge fund actually that was based on guitar prices, not sure if it's still going. So if you are in that world where money is a thing, you have some money, from an investment point of view, it might be worth it. I don't know. From value as an instrument, hard, isn't it? That's hard.
Tricky. It's very tricky.
It all depends on the ratio of your assets and income to how much it hurts you to buy it.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. The reality is, lots of those guitars are sitting in vaults as investments.
Yeah.
Massive kudos to Joe Bonamassa, who actually takes these bursts out and plays them. People get to hear them in the hands of an incredible guitar player. It's and they're magic things.
Yeah. Joe Urbanowski says at a certain price, the value is as a collectible, not as an instrument.
Course,
and that's right. David Tompkins, if you had 6 months to live and $1 million in the bank, then it's worth it. Etc. 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 My investments in beer and weed held up well, says Hobo Roadie.
Yeah. Well, Shed says Uncle Larry owns a burst and uses it to make a living.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's...
That would be a great story.
Certainly wouldn't be worth it to me. I mean, I bought a vintage guitar, a vintage Strat, which to many people is a ludicrous amount of money. It wasn't a ludicrous amount of money to me. It was worth it.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy with it.
Yeah.
But I didn't buy it as an investment. I bought it as an instrument. And at that sort of price, that's a difficult call, isn't it? Because it's obviously, you could buy multiple custom shop Strats for that.
You can't play them all at once.
Oops. So yeah, I don't know. Is it worth it? Is it worth it to you? And what is worth anyway?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Good on you, Mike. Hope you're doing well. Lawrence Koch, or Koch. Hello, Lawrence. He says,
Lawrence.
hello, leg ends. Wet, dry question. To run my rig into a single amp, would a passive combiner work like two inputs with 10k resistors tied to the output to the amp?
So you're talking about mixing passively with resistors, and yeah, I mean that can work. I'm assuming that both of those outputs have got low impedances. What you're trying to do is not run wet dry, right? You're trying to mix them both into a single input of one amplifier.
That's basically a parallel.
Yeah,
effects mix.
It's a parallel thing. The only issue that you might have is if you have got you've got dry signal on both of those, and it's whether or not the dry signal, by the time it finishes going through the wet signal, it's whether or not you haven't flipped phase anywhere along that line.
Yeah.
So, and as long as they're all nice low impedances, yeah, I mean it can work. It's not something that I would. Yeah, I mean, it can work. It can work. There are things like, you know, with 10K resistors, there are things like Johnson noise and that to consider. But if, you know, you've got a nice low output impedance.
Johnson noise.
Johnson noise.
What is Johnson noise?
The
noise your Johnson makes.
It's a phenomenon that happens with over resistors, and it's one of those things that running a signal over, like it can happen when you're biasing signals, and if the resistor values are too high, say you got 0 volts and 9 volts, and you've got 10K resistors, and you're meeting the middle to give you 4.5 bias. If those resistor values are too high, it can introduce a thing called Johnson noise, and it's just one of those things. So
what does Johnson noise
dull.
sound like?
Like just noise.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, it's not something that I mean, I would much rather they go into a mixer. But, you know, give it a go. You can only... You're not going to hurt anything by giving that a go.
Yeah. Okay. Peter Jessup. Hello, Peter. He says, hi again. This is a genuine question because I can't find the answer. Can you arrange gig rig atom loops to be mono send to stereo return?
Yeah, you can. Absolutely. The only issue you're going to have is if you have multiple mono sends and stereo returns, because once you've got a stereo signal coming back in, if you then go from, you know, a stereo signal into a mono signal into a stereo return, you're only going to get one side of that stereo signal going into that mono pedal, then stereo return. You know, that sort of thing you're talking about. If you have multiple mono to stereo pedals, you're really looking at stereo parallel mixing, if that's what you want to do. But you then don't get the series nature of the pedals going into each other. So, but yes, you can go mono send to a stereo return the atom.
There we are. Jeff McCurlane's on. Hello, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
He says, you guys are players and appreciate what a great instrument can do, vintage instrument, and B, so yes, it's worth it. Like Mick said, as a player, they should be played. Yeah, I'm into that.
Yeah, totally.
I'm into that. Nice to hear from you, Jeff. Harrison Vaughan is on. Harrison also has now been to 2 experience days. Legs, he says, what are your favourite mic techniques for a small body acoustic guitar that would work well with a sensitive and dynamic playing style? All the best.
Over to you. Acoustic guitar miking I find very hard.
It's not that hard. I like a stereo, or at least 2 mics. How you pan them in a stereo field, they're not. You wouldn't really do that, I don't think. What you want to avoid, number 1, is the sound hole. So
don't mic the sound hole.
I don't have an acoustic here. Yeah.
Okay.
And it depends on the mic, but what you get if you mic the sound hole is the proximity effect of. There's a lot of air coming out of that sound hole, and it will boomy bass. So you don't want that.
Oh, okay.
Best I've heard and seen is 1 mic pointing sort of up here, pointing essentially at the 12th fret.
Here?
Yeah, so kind of there.
Oh, this way?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
to
one,
here? Okay.
And 1 here by the bridge. And depending on the guitar, sometimes 2 large diaphragm condensers can work really well.
Right.
Sorry, capacitor mics. Sorry, sound on sound. Something like, your classic Neumanns and all the copies thereafter. So that can work. some of the most consistent results I've ever had are using a small diaphragm capacitor mics, particularly Neumann KM184, which is just a fantastic sounding thing. The hard work with acoustics is getting enough finger on string noise, this sound, enough of that, but not too much.
Oh, okay.
Because without it, it's a bit like the sound of the strings bouncing off the frets on an electric guitar. It's part of the sound,
Right.
and you need it.
Yeah, sure.
And if you get rid of all the finger noise by using coated strings and using various plugins and stuff to get rid of it, it starts to sound really unnatural. So you need enough of that. But of course, if it's too much, it's just all you can hear is string noise. So that's a challenge, and that
Sure.
can be done with mic placement. But I would always say like one roughly aimed at the bridge, one roughly aimed at the 12th fret, kind of pointing in like that. And what you'll get is a complementary frequency response off those two mics. And you can then, in the same way, if you were putting two mics on a guitar cabinet speaker, you can then affect the sort of mid-range
Interesting.
balance of it by the balance of the two mics.
Okay. Have you ever mic'd up classical guitars?
I would do it the same way, but
Because that finger string noise I find worse on classical guitars than anything.
right.
They're just very grabby.
I mean, I guess it depends on the player. That said, I've heard fantastic acoustic guitar recordings with an SM57 pointed at the sound hole. So
Right.
depends on the player, depends on the style. But if you're talking about considered dynamic, as you say, so the dynamics are hard work. There was a guitar player who you might know who was a friend of mine called Eric Roach, who died many years ago. And I remember speaking to Eric when he'd just done his most recent record, went round to his house for dinner, and he told me how they'd recorded his last record, which was mad. They had these little, have you ever seen those really long pencil, like directional mics?
Like from the 70s?
Like no, not the ones they had on Blankety Blank. They're like ultra shotgun mics.
Oh, okay.
And they can be used in all kinds of. So they would point one of those right at the point where he would flick the soundboard with his nails.
Right.
And they would point. There'd be so many different specialist mics doing various things because of his percussive. He'd hit the guitar and scratch it and
Right.
do all that stuff. Martin Simpson tells a similar story.
Okay.
So you can go to the nth degree with it, but I reckon a couple of nice capacitor mics, whether they are large or small diaphragm, one roughly pointed at the bridge, one roughly pointed at the 12th fret, I think, and a nice pre will get you a long way there. And then, of course, for that dynamic playing style, compression is pretty much essential. And then you get into the whole how much, not enough, too much, because overdone compression sounds awful, but none of it will mean that those lighter dynamics don't come through, and the stronger ones will be overpowering. So good luck.
Good luck, mate.
Yeah. The only Johnson noise I want to hear is Brian Johnson noise, says
There you
James
go.
Blessed. Eagle Ray Rob. Hello, Rob. Thanks for being here as always. He says, great episode on Friday. It got me thinking. Currently, an original clon sells for more than many amps.
Okay.
What amp would you use in place of a clon as a second amp? Bearing in mind what we did with the boosts.
Oh, okay.
Love and peace to everyone. Indeed, love and peace to everyone.
I think the TS1 is the perfect clone replacement. Perfect.
Yeah.
Stick that with a matchless. Just amazing.
Yeah.
I'd find it hard to turn that off if that was on. But yeah, it'd be perfect.
It's funny because the mid-range part of the clon is very Marshall-y, I think.
Yeah, right.
It's very sort of plexi-y. But then what you also get with the plexi is tremendously extended bass as well. And you don't get that in a clon. And some high end. So, yeah, interesting. Yeah, so something kind of Dumble-y, although that is a bit further down from there, isn't it? It's that thick mid-range, whereas you want biting upper mid-range. bloody hell, something like a AC30 could do it.
Yeah.
Do a great job of it.
Yep. Or even an AC15.
Yeah.
Bit of love. Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Or any number of amps with their EQ adjusted accordingly. Like you might get a super reverb to bark about there. Maybe. Yeah. If you don't know, the peak is at 1K in a Klon, but there's also, it retains quite a lot of high end as well, so you get that sizzle, which is really nice, which you don't get in a tube screamer.
Yes.
Yeah. 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 So if your Klon's going to cost you $5,000, you could do $5,000 on a used 2-hawk. What an insane world we live in. What an insane world. I'm trying to think what else. I wonder if something like a Pro Junior would do it, because
I think it'd be wonderful.
It cuts off a lot of bottom end.
Yeah, but
and you can get that mid focus because of the 10-inch speaker.
Yeah, and even so.
I think there's a show in here somewhere.
Yeah. What? Oh, that's a great idea. So, what Phil X does is he has one of the little Greer amps, like the little 2-watt, 5-watt thing, on top of his massive stack.
Yeah.
And he just kicks it in for boost. It's like, it's amazing.
Yeah. Jack Butler. Hello, Jack.
Hey,
he says,
Jack.
Love Friday show. Would love to hear you do a multiple amp Bonamassa style rig. We could get the 2 Marshalls set up for the...
Jack Butler. Yeah, well, that's another guy.
Oh, that Jack Butler, yeah. No, this is Jack Butler, who I think we borrowed the Royal 121 off.
Oh, okay, that's
many
Jack
years
Butler.
ago.
Jack Butler gonna love you. I remember seeing that film. I probably was there 13, and I mean, like everyone who saw that was like, "Oh, the guitar playing is different now.
Yeah.
The whole world has changed." Wow.
Yeah.
Sat down for years doing the all that stuff. Oh man, it was amazing. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. We're talking about the film Crossroads, by the way.
Yes.
And not the 80s British TV soap. I don't think if you call it a soap. Based in a hotel in the Midlands, Crossroads.
Oh.
A very famous character called Benny who had a green hat, as I remember.
Right.
And you know, whenever I get the 12-string out
Yes.
and play this...
Yeah. That's from that, is it?
I got no frets. That's the theme tune. Do 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 do. Yeah. Yeah. Probably one of the best hotel-based West Midlands dramas that's ever existed. Yeah, I'm right.
Fantastic.
I'm going for a bath in the cut. Jim B. Hello, Jim.
Hey, Jim.
Jimmy, be good. Greetings from Akron, Ohio. Or Akron. Or Akron, Ohio. Apologies. He says, I'm going down a chorus hole. Do you have a vintage and a modern favourite? Much love for your contribution to the community.
Oh, thank you, mate.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, we definitely do. Dan's
Yeah.
got a very, very, very definite vintage favourite.
Yeah, well, C1, astonishing, and the
Big box C1, the
big-
one that's like that shape.
yeah, the big one, and the Analog Man. Yeah, is it called the stereo chorus? What's it called? The
Bi-chorus.
The bi-chorus. Yeah, it's just truly wonderful. However, I heard this in a experience day. One of our lovely gents had it, and I heard it was like, oh my word, that's awesome. So I went and got this. Come on, focus. Look at that.
So in the 10 series Ibanez pedals, from which you may know the TS10 tube screamer, that's the Stereo Chorus 10.
It's so neat.
Yeah, nice. I got favourites. Vintage style would be either the aforementioned Analog Man that Dan said, or the Jam pedals waterfall, and they're very much C1, C2E Boss analog chorus, right? And the thing about that kind of chorus is it's quite dark sounding, it's very thick, there's loads in the mid-range, lower mid-range. It's a massively thickening effect, and it is very much that analog chorus sound. Now, that's not for everyone. And from there, you move into what I would consider a more 80s and 90s chorus sound, which would be the TC Stereo Chorus Flanger. Although that is still analog.
Yeah, right.
Big fan of that. They've just released it in the gold. We've got one here somewhere.
You've got that in your rig at the moment. It sounds
I have.
incredible.
Well, so for me, it takes a step into that more 80s. It's not the same thing, but it takes a step into that more 80s. What came out of the Boss Dimension C. So it's got it's got more of a shimmery quality to it, which the analog ones don't have.
Right.
And I love the Bosch Dimension C for that reason. Dimension D as it was, that's made into Boss Dimension C pedal, and then coming out of that, the Free the Tone Tri Avatar was my previous favourite. So these basically, Dan's got all the waterfalls.
What is that called? What is the Purple Rain called?
Open D string.
Open D, okay.
Yeah. And then bar the top two.
Yeah.
There,
okay.
there you go.
All right. So it's a B flat first inversion, yeah?
I would say these are my two favourite chorus pedals. The Free the Tone Tri Avatar multi-dimensional chorus and the TC Electronic Stereo Chorus Flanger, SCF.
Right.
There you go. And that's the one I've got in my rig. There we are. Subaru Pontes. Hello Subaru, he says, just want to share a new guitar day. I bought a 1966 Coronet, yes you did, with a Bigsby and the most magical P90 I've ever tried. One of my dream guitars.
Those Coronets are amazing, and they came with, what was it was like the Vibrola. There's one model came with a Vibrola. I think the Bigsby ones are quite rare. But the Coronets are fantastic sounding guitars.
Yeah, if you don't know, slab body mahogany twin cut Gibson thing. Looks like a flattened SG that you'd put in the microwave. And all the edges turn to curves. Maybe. Steve Marriott was a famous Coronet player, I believe.
Right.
Also one of Robbie McIntosh's favourite guitars.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Nice. Well, I hope you're enjoying that. There is something about P90s from that period as well.
Indeed.
And indeed earlier. I mean, that Dan's Junior is just a bonkers sounding thing. And so there's a debate. You may be aware of the Tonewood debate's been woken up again by Paul Smith wading in on it. Regardless of where you stand on all that, whatever, the simplicity of a slab mahogany body with a P90 attached to it,
it's glorious.
there is a familial resemblance with guitars that have that
Totally.
type of construction.
Yeah. Your when you had the old Collings here,
Yeah,
that was astonishing.
290 DCS. I'm going to lend that to my friend Damien. Hello, Damien, if you're watching.
Well, you still got it.
Yeah. Damo's not been in the best of health just recently.
Oh,
and,
sorry to hear that, Damo.
He was thinking about a Junior, and I said, you should borrow that. So I'm going to lend it to him. Yeah, it's a cracking guitar, that. But it doesn't sound as good as Dan's 61 Les Paul Junior.
Well, they're different.
No. Good. Well, sound is good. Let's put that a different way. We both prefer the sound of the 61 LP Junior.
Yeah. My guitar is Dave Gregory's favourite sounding electric guitar.
Get in.
Yeah.
Get in.
It's pretty crazy.
Elias Blum. Hello, Elias. He says, I've got a Ripley Fall. And I think he's saying he's got it in the effects loop of his ARDX20.
Oh, nice.
Analog delay heaven. That is really...
What a great idea.
What a great idea. Yeah. So the Analog Man ARDX20, which is probably mine and Dan's favourite analog delay, has a loop in it. I didn't actually know that until I read that question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never tried it.
Oh, okay. It's killer.
Nice. Nostradaweezus says, great show on boosts. I also rewatched the Wet Dry episode. Thoughts, please, on a third amp for stereo or 1 amp plus a stereo power amp with matched cabs. What are the relative merits, cost aside? Thank you.
So, if you're... what you can do... Imagine this. If you really like...
I wish the casters on that worked, because I could just wheel that into the shot and that would do the job, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'm looking at a Mesa Boogie 5050 stereo power amp, a 2-Rock TS1, and a Mesa Boogie 212 EV cab.
Yeah.
That would be pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
Wet, dry, wet.
Imagine this. Let's say you've got an amplifier that you absolutely adore the tone of, and you like the way it sounds when you push it and everything. And let's take that as your central amplifier. And let's assume that amplifier has got an effects loop in it. You run the signal from the center of the effects loop and you split it. One side goes directly back into the effects return. So that amplifier stays as it is. But the one split side goes to your stereo effects, and then left and right out of those into a left and right input of your power amp to the left and right speakers. There you've got a classic wet, dry, wet rig. So you're still getting all the gain and everything from the central amplifier, but that preamp in the center is driving all 3 power amps. It's driving the power amp from the original amplifier that the preamp's a part of, and then the 2 power amps left and right. And it's a really amazing sound. I think, so one thing to be aware of with wet, dry, wet, it is an enormous sound on stage. Depending on how stereo and the sort of images that you use, you need to be careful of what you expect the sound guy to get out the front. Because sometimes it can be really hard with those stereo images to get it left and right. And it would seem as simple as, well, left goes left, right goes right. But if you've got audience members that are sat in front of one speaker and they're only getting one side of that image, it's one of those tricky things. It's one of the reasons I love wet dry so much, is because the sound guy can just mix them in mono exactly what he needs, and then it's a sound that everyone can hear. I can mix myself on stage with as much dry and as much wet as I need. The sound guy, depending on what he needs, depending on the room, how many people in the room, he can mix it in with whatever he needs. It's similar with wet dry wet, that he can mix as much dry amp in, but I've always found stereo imaging front of house to be a bit problematic.
Yeah.
Unless you're back in the rafters and you can get a nice image of that. But if you're up front, it's really tricky.
It is.
But anyway.
There's a lot of hassle. And, I mean, it's hard enough taking 2 amps to gigs, let alone 3.
Oh, but it'd be a glorious thing. Imagine 3 of those, right? And the centre.
Dan is pointing to a Mesa 212 EV cab. Yeah, sorry we went out of focus as well, by the way. I think probably neither of us was looking at the camera. It tracks your eyeball. So,
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I've
that and a 4th amp for a boost.
I haven't heard a wet, dry, wet rig yet that would make me want to go away from wet, dry.
Sure.
In the sort of reward versus hassle.
Yeah.
Because I don't do anything stereo.
Right.
I have the reverb in stereo just because I like the reverb, but it's not there because it's stereo. It's there because I like it going to both amps.
Yeah, sure.
But, yeah. Good luck.
Good luck,
Hobo
mate.
Roadie, do you ever play with 15-inch speakers? There are 2 amps here currently that have 15-inch speakers. One is the 64 Vibra Verb over there somewhere. Although, sorry Ainsley, we don't like either of the speakers. The JBL sounds like being hit in the face with a shovel, and the Alnico sounds like having a surform rubbed across your cheek.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, however, it does sound glorious through any of the EVs here, the 12-inch EVs.
Yeah, right.
So there's that. There is also a 1953 Pro with a 15, which sounds out of this flipping world.
Mm.
So what we should do is get that. Would be good to get a PV Delta Blues with the 15. Because I think that's the kind of accessible, I don't even know if they still make them, but for years it was the accessible 15-inch speaker amp. And let's get a 112 cab with a 15 in it, put a bunch of stuff through it. I think there's a lot of misconception about what a 15 can and does sound like. Everyone assumes it's got massively extended bottom end. It's not necessarily the case.
No, yeah.
And that they can't do high end. That is definitely not the case.
Did they ever make a 4x15?
Oh, some idiot must have done. Acoustic must have done.
Okay. I'd love to hear that.
So we should do it. We keep saying we're going to do it. It would be a voyage of discovery because neither of us have much experiential knowledge of using 15-inch speakers. I've never had an amp for any long length of time with one in. And then a couple of our mates have got Vibra reissues with the 15 as well. So
I had one of those PV Delta Blues kicking around the workshop for a couple of years. It was Paul Stacey's. And then one day it turned up and goes, "Oh, can I have that amp back?" I said, "Yeah."
with the 15?
Yeah. I'd never plugged it in.
I've got a feeling Fender did one of its, I think it was Pawn Shop series Excelsior amps. I think maybe one of those had a 15 if I'm not misremembering that.
Okay.
Which was a pretty cool thing. Yeah, we just need to get off our butts and organise it.
Yeah.
Could be one for next year, Dan.
Sure. Flipping heck, how's that? Yeah. This time next month it'll be next year. I can't believe that. It's crazy.
Gargantua has got the question that should not be asked. Thank you, Gargantua. You could be striking to the very heart of this whole shenanigan here.
Okay.
And thank you for your generosity too. He says, "Hey DNM, as guitar players and songwriters," I might be stretching it a bit, but
yeah. Stretching a bit on both of those, to be fair.
yeah, we have both written songs. How would you describe the difference between playing guitar and playing guitar for a song? How do each affect your choice of gear? Happy holidays from Louisville, Kentucky, and see you on the
lovely.
27th, says Jason. Cool.
Oh, fantastic.
You're coming to an experience day.
How
Thank you,
lovely.
Jason.
So
It's a great question.
it's a great question. What I find is I hate using the term better, but the more you mature and
What's
the more
that
you
like?
progress down your path, the journey of playing guitar, the more you'll be able to offer a song. Just knowing when to play and when not to play. So they go hand in hand. Yeah.
It's the distiller, isn't it? Dan's going through a bit of a period of change at the moment with your rig, aren't you? You want to try some new stuff out and experiment. And I think we all feel like that. Certainly we get loads of questions about that on the show. But being the awkward individual that I am, I said, well, what for? What's the purpose? What's the goal? And that's what the song gives you. So to answer your question, how do you choose for the song? Well, if in the gigs I've done recently, they've had very specific set lists, going out with Nev's band and then going out with Ainsley. So I choose the gear that is required for the sounds in that song. Whereas our sort of normal pedal boards, if you like, are do it all. And when we did the Andy Simmons gigs, we needed the sounds on the board for the specific songs. And certainly on my board anyway, there was nothing on there that I didn't use.
Sure.
So the song, I think, offers you the opportunity to pare it down to what is required. Now, compare that with going to a jam night or being involved with a collective of people where the thing is about improvisation or it's about more free form. He wrote this.
Hope you enjoy a new direction.
And then you might want a board that can do a billion different things, or you might want a guitar, a cable, and an amp. That's down to you. So I think the song gives you the focus, doesn't it? And it gives you a purpose.
Yeah.
And that's why I said it's a slightly awkward question, because if, as guitar players, we only played and chose gear when there was a purpose, the guitar industry wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Because there aren't enough purposes out there to keep it afloat. The guitar industry exists on speculative purchase, it exists on gas, it exists on everything we talk about week in, week out. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. To be enthusiastic about something and to follow
It's
it
wonderful.
as an enthusiasm and a hobby. I don't think there's anything negative about that. However, when it's for a project, then you choose the stuff that's required for the project and nothing extraneous.
Yeah. So when I speak to people who are wanting to get boards together, the first question is always, what do you after? What do you need to achieve? What's your goal? What do you need to do with this rig? And once you can answer that question, and it's trickier when it's got to do a lot of things, but as soon as you can define it, even if it needs to do a lot of things, as soon as you can define what it is you need your rig to do, then you've put borders around it, and you go, this is what we need to achieve to do this.
Or even if it's what you want it to do, because need is that's a whole other thing.
What are you after? What's best case scenario? What is this? What do you want to achieve with this thing? And it's great. But if the answer is, well, I just want to play and have some nice tones, then it becomes...
Well, that's where you get into option paralysis.
Exactly.
Also, for the bit of songwriting that either of us have done over the last few years and recording, you might end up using stuff that you'd never, ever use on a live board just because it's convenient. Might be a bit of post from a plugin or something like that, and then you've got to rebuild that in order to play it live. Certainly, there's so many artists who have to, go into the studio, make the big record, and then pair it back to something that can be done live, which is a whole other. That's a whole other sphere of it anyway.
So the rig that I did for Filmlands in Error, and that video might be going out tomorrow, I loved that, with all that, he had, a bunch of delays programmed and things with the H9 and expression pedals and stuff, but 90% of the drive tones was a OCD.
Yeah.
It's like, for what I need to achieve with this, that's it. And it was awesome.
Yeah, I think Dan and I are both on a bit of a trip of simplification at the moment. So we'll see if that transpires in the new year.
Yeah, I'm on a trip of defining what I want to be able to do, because I've got this new band happening, and we had a rehearsal this week with Paul Stacey. Last week on Tuesday, and it was like, and we recorded. It was like, yeah, this is awesome. So I'm really excited about that and thinking about, okay, the songs that we've written and what exactly I'm trying to, get across. Because Paul's sound, it's like, it's a flippin' steamroller. Honestly, it's beautiful, and you're there going, "Roll me over, baby." But I'm there going, "Okay, what do I bring to this?"
Yeah.
It's gotta be really good. Yeah.
See you in January, Jason. Thank you for the question.
Yes, thanks, mate.
Every note counts. Every note counts. Is hard clipping more fizzy than soft clipping? On paper, I think I prefer soft clipping. However, I like the overdrive of a Klon more than the TS. I know it's not just EQ. What might it be? I think a lot of it's EQ, actually.
Yeah. And where the EQ is in the chain, whether the EQ is pushing into the gain stage, post gain stage, don't forget the Klon. It's hard clipping, but the gain control is a dual gain pot, and it also mixes the signal. So it's not like not like a rat, where you're just turning up the gain control. You're increasing the signal that's going through those pair of back-to-back diodes. In the Klon, as you turn the gain up, you are decreasing the amount of direct signal that you have in the signal as well as sending more signal into those diodes. So for it to be all the clipping in that is hard clipping, but unless you've got the gain all the way up, you've still got some direct signal in there.
Yeah,
so it's a different thing.
It might be a sort of red herring direction of travel too, because I genuinely couldn't tell you my favourite overdrives. I couldn't tell you if they're hard or soft clipping. I wouldn't know about that. What is cool about the Klon is the EQ is quite specific. It does give that mid hump, but it also has quite a significant high end response as well. So you keep that sizzle, and that might be what you're thinking of as hard clipping, because if you do hard clipping but then cut all the high end off, you won't get the sizzle. So EQ is hand in hand with how it works. I don't know. It would be an interesting question to ask, wouldn't it? What other pedals do we like that are hard and soft clipping? Tell you what's an interesting pedal to look at would be the full tone Plimsoll.
Yeah.
Which is a soft clipper, but it has an extra tiny little pot on it, which introduces additional hard clipping.
Right.
And you can kind of get that. But yeah, we can see why you would say that it's grainier, and that makes some sense if you think about how it works in the signal. Dan, explain how it works in the signal.
Well, the soft clipping diodes are a pair of diodes that are in the feedback loop of the op-amp. Op-amp, operational amplifier, and it's a differential amplifier. So it amplifies the difference between the two inputs on the op-amp, and that feedback loop, as you turn the gain up, you are increasing the amount of signal that's going through those diodes that are in that loop. However, hard clipping, the diodes are stacked directly on the output of that op-amp. So everything goes through it. Every bit of signal goes through those diodes. And the higher that signal, the more those diodes clip, but the signal's through those all the time. Whereas the signal in the feedback loop of the op-amp, where soft clipping, isn't in there all the time. It's just as the gain goes up, then the signal starts to go through those diodes.
Lee Tintle says, by definition, hard clipping introduces a lot more high-frequency harmonics. Square waves are theoretically infinitely high-frequency harmonics.
Yeah.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
There we are then. Yes, is the answer. Let's move on. Kedis Matthews. It's all over the front page. You give me road rage. Actually, it's Chris Matthews, not Keris Matthews. Sorry, Chris. Chris says, hi both. Mulder and Scully. Hi both. This might be an obvious one, but is there any reason not to run 50s wiring with single coils? I always hear it mentioned in the context of humbuckers. I've got a 1960s Galanti semi-acoustic with a 335 style layout. I keep meaning to try it in a Strat because everyone says it sounds brilliant in a Strat.
Okay.
Have you tried it? It is, isn't it? That is wired 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Dan's already got it in this guitar.
Yeah.
We think he did it that way.
Yeah. I'm sure I did.
Yeah, I'll have
double
to
check.
I'll have to hear it.
So the reason that it's a big deal with humbucker guitars, they are more susceptible to that top end roll off as soon as you touch the volume pot. Single coil guitars are less susceptible and they've got a lower output impedance generally. But it's a great question. I'm going to double check this tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm going to try it on a Strat and see what I think. And if I can hear any difference and it's interesting, I'll make a vlog about it.
James Bless has put Diode Hard, the TPS movie.
Nice one,
Fantastic.
James.
That's great.
Yippee-ki-yay, Motorfinger. Justin Baylog. Hey, Justin. Mooga Fuga.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
Yippee-ki-yay,
He says, howdy, TPS family. Hi,
G'day,
Justin.
mate.
He says, I just wanted to thank you for all you've shared with us over the years and wish everyone out there happy holidays. Thanks so much for the continued inspiration. Cheers, Justin.
Cheers, buddy.
Hope
Thank
the
you.
filmmaking's
Appreciate
going well,
it.
mate. Scott Leedy. Hey all. I want to
Hello.
get into home recording. Acoustic, electric and vocals. I like your taste in recorded audio, so hoping for some recommendations on DAW, interface and mics. I'm not looking to drop 10k, but willing to spend some.
So, what I've discovered by going through this process and doing it myself is that I can't do it myself. I'm not an engineer.
You don't have the patience.
You
You could totally do it. You don't have the patience. It's the same with me with music theory. I could learn music theory probably, but I just don't have
But
the
how
patience.
do I have the patience for that, but not for doing the engineering thing? And
Because
you
you're
vice
interested in
versa?
it.
That's interesting. I've sat down.
Your audio
for
always sounds
hours.
good anyway.
No, it doesn't. I've sat down for hours and hours on end trying to mix these tunes. And at the end, I put it on and I go, yeah, that's really good. And then I hear any other song and I just sit around kicking myself.
Too close to it, yeah.
You know, anyway, that's what I've learned.
Okay, Scott. DAW, Digital Audio Workstation, doesn't matter. Just use... what I would do is pick free, download the free trial. Normally they have a free trial. And just see how you find the interface. Because most of them do the same thing. Now, I know that there are passionate people on any specific platform. What makes the difference is how familiar you are with it and how fast you can use it. That is much more important than... I mean, obviously, it needs the basic feature set that you need. It needs to be able to record audio on multiple tracks. Most of them come with a simple collection of plugins that you can use for EQ and stuff like that. The most important thing is that you can get familiar with it and put the hours into learning it. So the two that we use at TPS are Apple Logic, because we run Macs here, and UA Luna. I do all the TPS recording in Logic just because I can fly around it and I understand it. I do all my music mixing in Luna because it has the nice analog summing and some other features which I really like in it. So I'll happily use either of those because the basic functionality are all the same. So pick whichever one you like the look of and the layout of. Interfaces gets really difficult. There's loads of great interfaces out there. Check out UA have just released some ones that are not They don't require the UA plugins. The higher end UA stuff, you have to use UA plugins, or at least in order to use UA plugins, you need the hardware. And there's that symbiotic relationship. They've just released a range of stuff called, I can't remember what it's called, looks really good value for money. UA have an absolutely solid gold reputation in interfaces. But then there's also loads of other companies, Focusrite, Behringer make great stuff for the money. Again, try and define, you need enough inputs, and then you need an interface that you can use easily and quickly. And if you're just getting into it, don't drop loads of cash.
The Focusrite stuff, I got a Focus 8 input thing, and it's great.
Yeah,
it's really great.
Yeah, I've had a couple of Focusrite things over the years. I would have thought probably Behringer would be the best value for money. They'll do a bunch of interfaces for sure.
Okay, I still think the Focusrite is great value for money.
Yeah,
because the EQ, the built-in preamps, and the Focusrite stuff sound fantastic.
Yeah. So any of that, and then mics. I'm going to assume you're only going to be recording one source at a time, or you might record acoustic and vocals at the time. So you want, as a bare minimum, you want 2 contrasting mics. And I would suggest you get a large diaphragm condenser mic, and look at companies such as Sontronics, SE, again Behringer. There's another company that I'm trying to bring to mind and I can't bring to mind. But basically one of those mics that looks like an old Neumann they're usually silver, large diaphragm capacitor mic. That is a full frequency response thing that's really good for acoustic guitars. It's really good for singing into. You can use it on pretty much everything. And then I would get a dynamic mic of some kind. So a Shure SM57, a Bayer M201. I don't know, there's millions of good dynamic mics out there. And that'll give you 2 contrasting options for microphones. That would be a really good basic setup. 1 large diaphragm condenser, 1 dynamic mic, a simple DAW, and you can probably use the trial one for a while, depending on, they offer different levels of functionality depending on the company, and a simple interface. It's a lot to get your head around, and the hours in learning the basic workflow is frustrating. It kills creativity, but you've got to put the hours in.
Yeah, if you want to do it yourself, there's a very steep learning curve, and it's very, very frustrating. What I find really frustrating is a lot of the buttons and things you need to know are so tiny.
Yeah.
And it's like nothing works. Well, if you tick that button right there, where? Right there.
Yeah. I mean, basic stuff like can you hear yourself when you're doing the recording? What are you monitoring? Are you monitoring what it's recording, or are you monitoring the input? Stuff like that. You've just got to read the manual. It's never easy if you're new to it.
No.
But the time is worth it, because the other thing, just to say finally, sorry, this is a long answer. Don't think you're going to get all the stuff. If you've not done this before, don't think you're going to get all the stuff and be recording music next week. It's not going to happen. You're going to spend many, many, many hours just getting au fait with the gear enough so that once you get the inspiration to record something, you don't have to think about how to use the gear. Because if you think about having, oh God, I can't remember how to arm the track, or, oh, blimey, this latency problem I can't get rid of, or something like that. Oh, I can't quite remember where I should be setting the gain on the mic. If you have to think about any of that stuff when you're trying to be creative, the creativity will just go away. So 1 foot in front of the other.
Just turning the click off is hard enough.
1 foot in front of the other. Baby steps. And it'll feel like you're not getting anywhere, and then one day you'll get somewhere. So good luck.
Yes, good luck, mate.
When I first got Cubase and a PC about 25 years ago, 20 years ago maybe, I cried on the first day I plugged it all in and tried to make it work. I ended up crying on the floor because I couldn't make it work. Thankfully, things are a lot easier now, but yeah. Anyway, good luck. KB.
And the Sunshine Band?
Thank you for your generosity, KB. You've got me gassing for a TS1. But what does it add over a Kingsley ODS juggler into the 6L6s of a Fryette power station into a 2-rock cab and his mixed TS1 6V6s or 6L6s? What does it add? Yeah, I mean, if you've got a Kingsley juggler into a Fryette power station and a 2-rock cab, you are a long way there.
Mm.
That is a very nice thing to have. And you might find it easier to play, easier to tweak, more satisfying than a full-on screaming Dumble-style amp.
Yeah.
It's hard work. That
Yeah.
amp is hard work.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah. The issue is you hear everything so clearly and you're playing and you're there going, I am awful. Because you're hearing everything, you're like there are some amplifiers that just they feel so lovely under the fingers and you get away with murder. But the TS1, the reason loads of really good guitar players like them is because every nuance of their pick on the strings they want heard, because they've been working on that stuff for a lifetime, and that's what the TS1 gives you. It gives you that clarity and that presence and that forwardness of tone. And if you are not on your game, everyone's going to know it. But if you are on your game, everyone's going to know it. And that's the thing with these amps.
Yeah. So mine's a 50, not 100. And it's got 5881s in it, which is 6L6s, basically. So.
Even from the back, it's beautiful. It's so great. This is it from the front. Bend your knees. Lift with your knees. Look at that thing.
And it's brown suede, for Christ's sakes.
It's so good.
I'll be rollering tonight, Dan.
What is it?
Rollering. I did a small knee tweak last week.
Oh, goodness.
Catherine's got these rollers where you roll your muscles out and it just goes away. Yeah. It's really, I'll make the video because, like all guitar amps that you love with all your heart, some days you plug in and you're like... In fact, a friend came up and we plugged them in. And you start off and you think, wow, that sounds fizzy. Mm-hmm. You know, my perception of that sound is it's fat, full, thick. And then you get it in a band and it's like, oh.
Oh, yeah.
All that high end is there for a reason. And Dan and I have had this realization recently, cranking the Marshalls and miking them up. You know, can sound very abrasive. But then you hear it in the mix and you hear it in the recorded audio and it's like, there's something else going on here.
What I love is when these amps were voiced, they were voiced for music. They were voiced to sit in a band being played loud with for a visceral experience.
Yeah.
They weren't voiced as this is going to sound really good in the music shop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you turn one of those things on in the music shop and it's like, ugh, that's really hard to play.
Yeah.
But actually, yeah.
So good luck, KB. It's a heart-stopping purchase, something like that these days. But there you go. It is what it is. Good luck. For playing guitar and keyboard parts in a song, says Dylan Croft. Hello, Dylan.
Use your toes.
Will I break my G3's buttons by switching between the sounds 10 times per song when I practice the song 5 times a day?
No. They're optical switches. There's no. You're all good, buddy.
Dan worked very hard with the company to help develop those switches. Is that right? Or did they already exist?
No. Designed those from scratch.
You designed. Okay,
yeah.
So Dan designed those switches from
my
scratch.
engineers designed those switches from scratch.
And
we
why?
milled the steel.
Why did you do it?
Because every other foot switch we had broke.
There you go.
Every other one. So something like G3's got 14 foot switches on it, right? If you've got a pedal and you send out 1,000 pedals, and let's say 2 of those foot switches and those 1,000 pedals break. That's pretty good. But let's say you've got 14 foot switches on, and so you got, what's that, 80 odd G3s. It takes one of those foot switches to break, and the whole thing. So it's like we couldn't do it. And we tried every foot switch you can think of, and it's like, no, we've got to do this ourselves. So, like, the dome of the top of the foot switch is so that one reason that a lot of foot switches breaks, that they've got flat tops on them, is the shear force that comes down on the side, and they push down the side, and it tweaks the foot switch, bang, gone. With the dome thing, you can come down on the side of the foot switch, it's still, the pressure is angled straight down. So all those little things, but having it be optical where there's no mechanical switching, there's no, that's the thing that breaks.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, you're fine. Go for it.
Yeah. I mean, if you weigh 26 stone, jump up and down on it, probably the case will give way before the switch will.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, thanks,
Dylan.
mate.
PSD Mikey 169. PSD Mikey 169. Help! I found myself falling out of love with overdrive pedals. Me too, Mike. More and more I'm playing cleaner, even things more associated with dirty tone. Have I lost my mind, or did I just find my sound?
No, dude, it's a journey, and if this is something that is connecting with you at the moment, explore it. Go with it. Absolutely.
There is, I think there's that journey a lot of us make where, a massive, fat, overdrivey, thick sound is, when you first start off playing and you first discover overdrive, and it's so easy because everything's so buttery smooth under the fingers and it covers up all the mistakes. Happy days. Too much overdrive. And then you get in your first band and you're like, yeah, I can't hear it. And then you learn the whole turn the gain down, turn the volume up.
Oh, I can hear it. Oh, I can hear it.
Oh, I can hear it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then for the next 25 years you fight between the two.
Yeah, it's that balance. It's the balance because, what's the opposite end of that? A really open Fender Twin, which is like, ugh! And that can be great as well. But finding that balance of lovely limiting and harmonics, but still having clarity and definition, that's the balance.
It is. Amish Trivedi, I think we have your question in from BV. Marcus Reeve says, come and wire your Strat up in my workshop, mate. Yeah, all right. I'm planning a visit to Marcus, actually.
Yeah. Darren O'Toole, so the hamster pedals have the same optical switch. Yes, they buy those foot switches from us.
There we are.
There you go.
Amish Trivedi, finally my birthday. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, mate.
So this is just to say thanks for the notes and the stickers and the shirt. Mostly to Catherine, the real legend. No doubt.
Absolute. She came in before and dropped the water off. I'm like, Catherine, what would we do without you? Actually, far out, man. What would we do without you? This.
I'd have to get a job, Dan. It's what we do without Catherine. You'd be all right. You could go back to gig rig land. I'd have to get a job. No, thanks. Thank you, Amish. We'll pass on that to Catherine if she's not watching. That's kind of you to say. Fantastical feet fingers, says S. Crawford Music.
These have been really good today.
Yeah.
Really good.
I borrowed my buddy's Les Paul for a gig on Saturday, and boy, oh boy, it was glorious through my 100-watt Olston, which is a Dumble-style thing with a more Fenderish clean sound. Love you guys.
Amazing.
Yeah, I have to say, so far I'm preferring humbuckers through the TS1 than my Strats in a big way.
I think it sounds glorious with the Strats, but when I hear the gold Les Paul into that thing, it's like, that's it.
With a bit of delay in the loop.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
it's that
just
sound.
That's it.
It's that sound, isn't it?
I'm going to step away now because that sound has now been done.
Yeah, okay, we'll make the video. Nice one, S. Crawford. Well, what can you say? What can you say? When you find it and it's glorious, and then the next night you take exactly the same rig and it's like, what? Where did my sound go?
Yeah.
Just a shout out and a thank you, says Shed. Hello, Shed. Just a shout out and a thank you to Mr. Bishop from Gig Rig Support for my enduring questions. For enduring my questions and helping me out.
Oh, Joe's a legend, and Jake, the support guys there are truly wonderful.
Paul the Bearded One Downing says, I just spent nearly 30 quid on a salmon sheesh with all the doings, so I thought I'd bung you a tenner for the sheer entertainment you fellas have given us of late. Thanks, and enjoy a third of a shish, lol.
Oh, that sounds really good.
Who knew you could get a salmon shish?
Oh, man. When I used to play Shepherd's Bush, there was a sheesh place just around the corner, and every Sunday, and I look forward to it so much because at the end of the gig, pack up and I'd go around the corner, and they'd make the bread there, and it was just. Now I'm thinking about it, I'm really hungry.
I wonder if we could get a kebab tonight from somewhere. That could be a good dinner because I haven't prepared anything. You see, yeah.
Okay.
Thing is, right, I used to have this conversation with my mate Pete after about 9 pints most Saturday nights, as we'd sit on round the weir in Bath, at the kebab shop opposite, and sort of mumble, actually, this is really healthy. Look, it's bread, it's lean meat grilled, and vegetables. It's healthy.
But apparently, kebabs is the highest calorie meal of all the takeaway meals.
I don't believe that.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking about a shish kebab, right? Not a doner kebab.
No.
So the doner kebab is the shaved elephant's leg.
Okay.
That may be fattier.
Right.
But if you take a piece of lean lamb
no, totally.
that's been grilled, there's lean meat.
Yeah.
There's salad with onions and carrots and things like that.
Yeah.
And a pita bread. The pizza must be the highest, surely.
I don't know. It depends on the sort of pizza, I guess. But
Any nutritionists watching, let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah, kebab, that sounds good, actually. I'm still a fan of the
What is...
doner,
Okay,
actually.
here's a question. I don't know how many we've got to go.
One more.
Okay, here's a question for you then. I'm 51 now, right? I've been eating every day for more than 51 years. To this day, why do I overorder when I'm hungry? Why do I look at a menu and go, I know I can't eat that. I know if I have that and that, I'm going to be full. But because I'm hungry, I'm going to order that, and that.
But
when I think, because now what I'm thinking is that we need to get a sheesh. I'm thinking, no, I need to get 2 because I'm really hungry.
we're on the precipice of a personal conversation here, Dan. Because you do the same with pedal boards, with amps.
So I'm an idiot. They're just
No,
I'm an
you've
idiot.
got ADD.
Duh.
That's what it is.
Great. I'll have 2 kebabs, please. I'm really hungry.
I'm just wondering where we can get a doner from tonight. I wonder if we can. There is a place in Warminster, actually. It's called Mr. Kebab. We're totally going there.
Mr. Kebab.
We are totally going there.
Excellent. Anyone in the Warminster area, we'll see you at Mr. Kebab.
Yeah, Mr. Kebab in about 45 minutes.
Brilliant.
Get on.
Okay. I am up for
Large
it.
doner.
Great.
Or shish. Okay.
We'll work it out.
Chris Turner. Greetings
Chris.
to you, Chris. He says, thoughts and advice on gold foils. I'm thinking of getting some for my Strat. I'm finding more and more that filtertrons and gold foils, etc., are my thing.
So, it's really interesting. I don't know if you remember, but we were demoing something for Robert Keeley at NAMM years ago, when that was the thing we used to do. And at Robert Keeley's booth, he had his Keeley,
The little Supro, yeah.
and there was a guitar there
That guitar was banging.
that had gold foils in it, and I will never forget playing that guitar.
Yeah.
And it just, stuff came out and was like, oh, that was magical.
I've got 2 guitars with golf. Sorry, mate, I'm totally interrupting you.
No, I'm finished.
I'm sorry. I felt like I needed to get up and manhandle you to
No,
say
no.
that I'm sorry, so that you meant it, so that I meant it.
Bless you. No, I'm good. I had finished. Yeah, this guitar sounds amazing.
This guitar's got a gold foil in it. I really like it.
Ron Leslie says, great. I have an unreasonable desire for souvlaki. Cheers, lads. Yeah. It sounds great, that guitar.
I have a Collins 360 LT with gold foils.
Yes, you do. And that's an astonishing guitar.
I've also got a set of gold foils, Jason Lollo gold foils out there, ready to go in a Strat one day,
No.
which I haven't got round to. Now, my experience of gold foils is clarity of single coils, and their gold foils vary greatly, by the way. This is my experience of the gold foils that I have, all of which are Lollas apart from this one. Clarity of single coils, but they compress
Yeah.
in the way that a Strat or Tele single coil just doesn't do.
No, yeah.
So you hit the guitar hard, and the experience for me is it just gets chewier, for want of a better word. Some humbuckers can do that.
Yeah. But it's different because it's still a single coil tone.
Yeah, and I've got
Yeah.
P90s that do it too.
Right.
But you seem to just get a slightly squashier response when you hit the guitar harder, and that can be a very, very lovely thing. I think in a Strat it's such a cool thing. Do you remember that Partsacaster that Joey had with the
First
gold
time we ever
foils?
saw him.
That's
First time I ever saw him was with that guitar, and I was just like, it was like jaw on the floor the whole night. It's incredible.
And it's interesting that you mentioned Filtertrons, because to me too, Filtertrons do that. They compress a bit.
Yeah, but they're different. Their Filtertrons are amazing, but they have their own thing.
Yeah.
But the gold foil sits in a different place for me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm not saying it's the same thing. I'm saying the characteristic is.
Yeah.
I find that Filtertrons definitely start to give a bit.
Yes.
In the way that a Strat
Yes.
never will, or a Tele never will. You know,
Yep.
a Tele's always just going to keep punching you, whereas that analogy's going nowhere. Yeah, go for it, Chris. Go for it. If only I had some Strats to put some gold foils in.
Finally.
God. Dan's got a bee in his bonnet about Riviera Paradise at the moment.
Not a beam up on it. I just had an idea that I would love to explore. But I've got to get everyone on board,
Yeah, which means me.
which means Mick.
Dan wants to explore what would happen if you actually played the changes in Riviera Paradise,
Oh,
as opposed
Okay.
to just blowing all over it.
okay. Right. We've done the last question, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I really would love to hear what you think. Because there was a period of my life where I listened to Stevie Ray Vaughan more than anyone. And he was a step change for me as far as understanding power and intent and feels. Like, I heard that, I was like, how do you even start? How do you even, so it was incredible. And I'd listened to him for years and years. The one track I always struggled with was Riviera Paradise. Now, I'd studied jazz at this point. I never really could play jazz, but I'd studied it, and I had a vague understanding of playing the changes, and the players who I really loved would always mark changes by playing something. And what happens in Riviera Paradise is that he doesn't. He just plows through it, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And sounds amazing. And it's a sound that a lot of people really love.
Is it where he's playing the Albert King lick and he just won't give it up? Is it
Well,
that bit?
it's whenever he hits that E flat major 7, he's still going. He's still doing all. He basically doesn't move from the E minor thing. So anyway, tell me what you think, because I would love to hear. I want to get a bunch of guitar players to hear them play over those chords, and get Doug and Paddy in here and actually record it something properly, or whatever. But I'd love to hear some of our mates play over that and just sort of hear it reimagined. Yeah, I just think it'd be really interesting. And there's no disrespect, because I think what Stevie did was astonishing. You can never take away he's a genius. But yeah, I would just love to hear that reimagined. Let's see if people are saying absolutely no. That would be sacrilege.
Ba-ba-da.
Isn't it?
Can't remember. I used to be able to play that
Right.
and probably play all the wrong chords that you hate. Okay, let's do it. Thank you for being with us.
Yes, thanks everyone.
Tout le monde.
Tout le monde.
We shall see you tomorrow with either a Pedal Jams or Dan's Phil Manzanera vlog, if he can get it tagged and bagged quickly enough. Failing that, it'll be the other way around for next Tuesday.
Yeah, I'll take the laptop home. I'll once I've finished gnawing on the elephant's leg.
Yes. I can help you with the thumbnail if you want.
That'd be great. I've already got the picture for it.
Right.
Yeah, and I can do the tag eye up landlord.
Tag eye up landlord.
Beautiful.
Great. And then Friday will either be a video on Tube Screamers, because the internet needs another video on Tube Screamers, or
Actually, it's a really good video.
it is a good video actually. 5 things you asked us to do with a Marshall 1987X,
Yeah.
following the last Marshall video we made, which was enlightening and eye-opening.
Yeah.
And then I've got 5 other things I want to do after hearing the audio back. Because that in itself is instructive and insightful, Daniel. Thank you for being with us, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week. And yeah, hopefully the sock ball will continue to be entertaining for everyone.
The soccer ball.
Sorry to Germany.
Oh, the soccer. Yeah, I forgot that was on.
kickball.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good last night.
Was it?
Yeah.
What happened?
The 11 men representing England
Right.
managed to get the ball past the 11 men representing Senegal 3 times
Oh,
and put it in the net.
so that's when they say back of the net. Is that what they mean?
Yeah, touchdown.
Touchdown.
Yeah.
Right.
And they advance. The English team advance. It's very entertaining. See you next week. Bye. Where's our